Yark! Welcome, mateys, friends and mates alike, ahoy! Today, we are here to discuss Red Seas Under Red Skies, a swashbuckling adventure, Yark! We brought our cats, we
Yes.
got our pirate friends, we got the sea
We
shanties.
need cats on board a ship, Charles.
You sure do. Give us all your goddamn cats, as they say. What's that, Polly? Huh? Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, that's a good idea,
And
everybody.
visit YouTube so that you can see the cat
And the parrot.
Here. And yeah, well, the parrot's not real. Socks is very real and really annoyed at this point.
Yes, and check out Red Seas
Okay,
Under Red
buddy.
Skies by
Bye.
Scott Lynch. We got our lucky cats, we got our parrots, and we've got our seagulls flapping in the wind. We are ready to get into another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. My name is Charles, and with me today, as always, is my lifelong friend and co-host, Dylan.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friend, Charles.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy too, particularly the swashbuckling kind, because we are here for Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch, book 2 of the Gentleman Bastard series. And
Charles, you have feathers just flying all over the place right now.
Every time I move, this thing sheds. I don't think it's going to last till the end of the episode. This thing is actually an FTF artifact, because I bought this originally in our first year of the show when we were just up for Halloween, and you were Patrick Rothfuss and I was Brandon Sanderson, and these were back in the days when Sanderson had a parrot on his YouTube channel. I don't know what happened to the parrot. I'm assuming it's still around, but doesn't make as many
They live very
appearances.
long.
They do live very long. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then it's just been
Sanderson's parrot's gonna outlive all of us.
More than likely. And so this is my Sanderson parrot that I have kept all these years, and he's starting to molt, I believe is what they call it when birds lose their feathers. But anyway, let's just jump right into let's just jump right into the show, guys. We've got a lot of exciting things planned today, don't we, Dylan?
We do. I mean, the main thing that we have planned today is following up on our promise to do an episode on Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. I mean, we did our Friends Pitching Fantasy a mere, who knows, 4 months or whatever ago, and we're back and again.
We are so
And
back. Parentheses again.
Yes, we are here to talk about the sequel to The Lies of Locke, the second book in Gentleman Bastard sequence, and this is a high seas swashbuckling adventure, like Charles mentioned. That's what the parrot's for.
That's what the parrot's for. That's what the lucky cat is for. I guess to kick it off, Dylan, it will, I guess, keep it spoiler free, even though it is the second book in a series. But maybe for all those people who have read Lies of Locke and have toyed with the idea of setting sail with Red Seas Under Red Skies, perhaps we should give our spoiler free first impressions before we dive into our full discussion. What was it like for you? Because you revisited. This was your reread of the book, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. I've read all the books that are out in the series before, but I read them years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, years ago, probably like a decade ago, I would guess. Yeah, that makes sense, that timeline. So I'm gonna say it's been a while. We've all grown since then. We've all changed, and so has some of my opinions on the second book of this series. Because I remember when I first read the trilogy, I almost felt like I had to give a caveat in recommending the series, where I'd be like, okay, the first book, The Lies of Locke, was maybe like it's up there with my favorite books ever. And then after that, it's like the rest of the series is definitely good. definitely worth reading, but just don't expect it to meet the Liza Lamora level again.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into reading this with that kind of mentality, prepared for that. And then actually reading it, I was like, okay, maybe I underestimated Red Seas Under Red Skies a little bit. Like, I do stand by Lies of Locke Lamora strongest in the series, but I was like, this is actually a really great book. Like, I'm having a lot of
Mm.
fun with it. And there's elements to this book that we'll get into more that kind of help the series see certain dynamics develop and certain qualities that it's really known for as a series, like one of which being the Jean and Locke dynamic that people always
Mm.
talk about. Like that comes kind of into more full force in this book, and all sorts of things that I guess when I used to step back and think about Gentlemen Bastards, I'd be like, oh yeah, Lies Lockamora, that was like the peak,
Mm.
and then never really lived up to that. Now I'm like, okay, this is actually a really fantastic book in its own right.
I agree completely. This is my first time reading, and I had read Lies of Locke Lamora relatively recently for the first time as well. So I'm a single reader on both counts, and my bias going into Red Seas Under Red Skies is what I kind of the scuttlebutt, as you'd say,
Mm,
out there
that feels
is
piratey.
it sounds piratey. Is that it's a little bit of a step down, but I found that this book had all of the charm and all of the great characterization. Yeah, I call Scott Lynch a poet, even though he's writing some depraved stuff from time to time. He really is a poetic voice, and it was a lot of fun. And so that is me at the highest level. Were there a few like story element things that I would nitpick and to knock it down a slight bit from perfection? Sure, but am I going to let that get in the way of me having a swashbuckling good time? Heck to the no. And so that is why um, I would highly recommend it for anyone that's considering diving into the second book that's read Lies of Locke Lamora. And I would also say for those people that have only read Lies of Locke Lamora, heard about the great duo of Locke and Jean, that is at the forefront of this book, which I know we'll get into in more detail. We'll have a whole segment of the episode on Locke and John, but I would say that that is another big draw to this particular book as well. And so, with the intros out of the way, let's jump into, I guess, overall. I don't know where should we start. Should we start with getting right into the spoilers at this point? Are we good with the spoiler free?
I think so. If you're someone who has read Lies of Locke Lamora and weren't sure if you wanted to dive into the seas under red skies, as it were, then yeah, both of us saying just go do it. Just go do it.
The
There's a
audiobook is
lot to
great
love
too.
here.
That's how I experienced it. And it's a really great listen.
And we all know from the great work that, oh geez, it's who's the audiobook
Hey,
narrator on this one again?
Michael.
It's
Oh god, I'm gonna
yeah,
Google it right
check
now.
that out because the only thing I remember is that the he also did the Catherine Voyage uh, quartet, the same audiobook narrator, right?
Right,
And when we did our
Michael
reread of the
Page.
Catherine, Michael Page,
Yep.
when we did our reread of, it's tough being in the audiobook fantasy game, by the way, and being named Michael with Michael Kramer out there. I was literally thinking, I was like, I know it's not Michael Kramer, but why is that
Yeah.
coming to my head?
And can we to the irony
But
of your last name being Page when you're an
ooh,
audio guy? You know.
oh yes, I guess that there is
So
some.
it's just
Yeah,
the
it's,
duality of
why
that.
couldn't
You
I have
know.
been Michael Voice?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but he might as well be Michael Voice because anything I have listened to from him is fantastic. And I know I did the audiobook as my, at least part of my reread of Chatham Voyage, which he does, and he's phenomenal in that wonderful swashbuckling, seafaring stuff too. So we know he brings those chops into this one. So check out the audiobook if you're interested in that. And yeah, otherwise let's get into the spoiler territory here.
All
Let's
right.
have you turn it down in your headphones if
Nice.
you haven't yet
Uh,
read Red Seas Under
Calm
Red
down, buddy.
Skies.
Yes, time to turn it down in your headphones because we are into the spoiler build section. And before we get started, Dylan, I just wanted to do a quick PSA announcement that
Ooh,
you know,
PSAs, you know I
when I
love
was
those.
on paternity leave, it really got
Mm,
me thinking about life
reflective
outside
time.
of FTF, and you know,
Oh,
I
jeez.
I got to
Oh,
watch
Charles,
episodes.
don't quit
I
now. This
got
is
to
an
watch
off.
episodes of you going solo, and it just was kind of annoying if I'm being honest. You had no intro music. You didn't have the beautiful borders that I put all this effort into. And you know
Mhm.
what? I just decided that I'm sick of it. And so I'm going to do my own solo project and I'm cutting you out. And that's it.
Oh, is this okay? I see what you're doing here, I think, which is, are you playing off of the way that Red Seas Under Red Skies
Oh,
starts,
you caught
which
the
is that
signal?
the dynamic duo of Locke and Jean is
This
it's
is
like
the
teased
signal.
that yeah, that right. You didn't give the signal, Charles.
I did. You just didn't see it.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
I was
didn't see
doing a
it.
joke for all you spoiler
It's
filled fans out there.
I Charles did not prepare me for that, so I did piece it together,
See, our
and
friendship
I'm
is
proud of
just that much
myself there.
closer than Locke and
It's
John's because
well,
Locke
let
could
me
not.
finish in case people don't remember this scene, which is I think one of the picks that Charles is gonna knit, if that makes any
Hmm.
sense,
I don't like
which
the way
is
that sounds, but yes.
I don't like it either. I wish I wish we could cut that, but I'll say that uh, the tease of Jean betraying Locke at some point later in the book is kind of one of those. This is a thing that annoyed me about Breaking Bad kept doing this, which
Hmm.
is like it would show you like this like thing is gonna happen, like just stay tuned through the boring crap we're gonna
Yeah.
show you next
Yeah.
because something wacky is gonna happen. I don't
Yeah.
think that Red Seas Under Red Skies is boring or needed to lean
No.
on this,
No.
but for some reason he like Lynch tries to build like suspense or something by having this moment of Jean is gonna betray Locke, and we never buy it, right? Like
No.
a keen reader is like, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think Jean is gonna
No.
betray Locke. And yeah,
Yeah, because it's that, and you're right, Dylan. I'm going to be nitpicky on this one. No good way to break that word down. But
no.
I will say that I think because I wanted to talk about trust and betrayal as one of the main themes of Red Seas Under Red Skies and how that kind of parallels with the dynamic duo that is Locke and Jean. Because I feel like this is very much the book that solidifies Locke and Jean as the top tier fantasy dynamic duo, more so than Lies of Locke Lamora. But it opens with this cliffhanger where it's even like Locke is looking for the signal and he's not getting it, and he starts to genuinely fear for his life. That's how this book like opens. And then
Yeah.
this is a long book, so a lot of pretty entertaining, fun stuff has happened. And then we catch up to that scene, and it just ends up being like, "Oh, I did give you this signal. You didn't see it."
I
And he
know.
was like, "Wait, what? Oops!" And then they just move on. And I'm like, "What the heck was that? I've never seen like a cliffhanger just so like fizzle out so hard because Scott Lynch at the end of Lives of Locke Lamora solidified himself as like there's heists, there's twists, there's turns, there's intrigue, like something interesting is going to pay off, and I just feel like it didn't pay off like at all. And in fact was the one main detriment to the book because you have this beautiful duo. You have us thinking that they are have a falling out at the end, and they never do. It's not even
Yeah.
close. And so it's like, why did we feel the need to shoehorn a cliffhanger like 1,000 pages before, or however long it felt? In the audiobook, it was many hours. It was like 10 hours. So you're
It
like,
doesn't come around until toward the end of the book,
right,
and it's the payoff is not really there. It's a very strange
it's
moment. I've
strange.
always thought this. It's a yeah, I think a lot of people probably don't believe it, and the only thing that is potentially interesting about it, I think, if assuming you aren't like fooled or whatever by like, oh, there's gonna be a betrayal. Like the only thing
Mhm.
that's potentially interesting about it is like, why would Jean not give the signal when he's doing this?
Yeah.
And the answer is he did, but Locke didn't notice. And it's
Yeah.
like, come on, like at least deliver on why Jean couldn't
Yeah.
give the signal in that moment and make that interesting, or have it be like a more complex like betrayal. Like the betrayal is basically like what you just did, Charles. It's like, I'm sick of you. Like you did this. Like it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like and throughout the entirety of the book, the thing that stands strongest is that trust between the duo. And there's many points in which like they love each other and trust each other so much that they basically, I mean, it like ends with Locke pulling a trick on Jean to save Jean's life
Yeah.
and to put himself, Locke, in the position where he's still poisoned
Now
and
that's a
Jean will
cliffhanger right
survive.
there.
And like that's interesting.
Yeah. a
Like
hundred
so
percent.
I mean there's just yeah, you made a great point about the lives of Locke Lamora demonstrate to us that if for any reason we are feeling like the start of Red Seas Under Red Skies was boring or slow, which I don't,
No.
then we should have the trust because we read that previous book, which was
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
that it will pay off.
Yeah.
So why do we need that? That initial thing, I don't know. I really that's actually a thing I would be interested in talking to Scott Lynch
Yeah.
about. Like literally just be like
Yeah.
what
What was the thought
motivated
process
that?
there? Because I guess
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, so what happens where Jean has such a bad falling out with Locke? And because in the beginning, Jean is like basically, you know, babysitting Locke and putting him on a path of recovery.
Right.
Locks him in a room, gets him sober, tries to get him on the straight and narrow, gets him reinterested in living life, which he was
Hmm.
way in a deep, dark, destructive place at the end of Lies of Locke Lamora. And so there's a whole opening plot of that time between, like, in the past of this book that kind of bridges the gap from Lies of Locke Lamora to the present day in Red Seas Under Red Skies. And those were pretty endearing moments. You get those, that theme of brotherly love, that brotherhood, that inseparable
Hmm.
bond between them, that these are the two that are left in their found family from book 1, and they have a responsibility to each other, and they understand each other in ways that no one else can understand them. And I feel like that trust has been is constantly evolving throughout Red Seas Under Red Skies, even when you know Jean gets his own romance at the end, and it's just like that constant evolution. They always put each other first, and they always are like, "Hey, man, like whatever you will make you happiest, like you'll do it. We're in this together, and that's how it's gonna. I'll be fine. Like do your thing." And there's moments where that gets tested, but yeah, then you have the weird gotcha moment that is apparently the cliffhanger of the first 2 acts of this story, and it fizzles out. So that was just an odd thing when you have such a good dynamic. Why even test it in that, like try and undercut it in that way, and then not even properly test it in that scene in particular? It was just, like you said, it was a little bit of a disconnect there. But I do want to focus on the positives of it, and especially as we get to the end, because they do end up trusting each other and being there for each other. I like the full circle moment of when poor Jean's partner, I'm trying to remember her name, when she
Isn't
dies.
it Isri? Is that
Isri sounds correct.
Esri is
Esri, that
probably
is
the
a character. Oh
pronunciation.
yeah, easy Esri.
Ezri.
Esri.
Esri.
So yeah, there was, because now it's Locke's turn to be the nurturer, and that was a
Mm-hmm.
nice thing to see. And then they fight over the poison, which is very funny. Where they're like, I'll poison myself," and they're tricking each other into poisoning themselves. That's how you twist it and subvert it and make it fun.
Yeah, I think that I I really enjoyed the ending there with it's just vintage best duo stuff, and we never really needed to toy with the idea that they were not going to be able to see each other through this. I think that I did really enjoy the so I think while we never buy, or at least I'll say I didn't buy that there's going to be a full betrayal, I like when their relationship is tested and like strained,
Yes.
which is something that happens really well at the start of the book when you're
Yeah.
talking about the like, oh, this is how we got to where we are now with red seas under red skies is what was happening in the meantime.
Mhm.
It's like we've got Jean basically starting his own little gentleman bastard kind of
Which one of you was
situation.
the
And
baddest mother effers in here?
yeah. And then we've got Locke, who it's just different kind of coping styles,
Yeah.
and it's done really well. Where it's like Locke has this very woe is me, like depressive coping
Mhm.
style that I think Scott Lynch has been public about some of his struggles with depression, so we know that some of that is probably showing up in how he's writing Locke, at least his experiences, and he writes it, from my perspective as someone closing out his PhD in counseling psychology. I thought it was a really well done depiction of depression, and I'll say then Locke differs from Jean, where Jean has this like, okay, the way I'm gonna cope is by like doing these actions and like giving myself something to focus on
Yeah.
and
Kind of
uh, like passing, yeah,
rebuilding that relationship
right,
structure that I had before, going back to what's comfortable. That's a great point.
yeah. And the tension that's caused by that feels very earned and real, where it's like
Mhm.
Jean totally has a point where he's like, Locke, you just lie there all day drinking. Like, I love you, dude, but
Yeah.
it's very difficult to deal with you when you're doing this, which
Yeah.
is often how close ones to people going through depressive episodes will feel. And then for Locke, it's like, dude, we just lost our like family and you are just trying to replace them. You're
Yeah.
just going out there and being like, oh, I'll just make a new one and they're irreplaceable. And that
Mhm.
tension is very real and no one's right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
just this clash and this strain. But
Yeah.
we can have that existing on its own and enjoy that without having to be like, and it's going to end in
Exactly.
bloody betrayal. It's like, no, it's just this is where Scott Lynch thrives, is like character writing and conflict and
Right.
really interesting depictions of very different people.
It's well said, Dylan. I think it brings a level of maturity to their relationship that makes their bond even stronger. I mean, sure, they're two very immature people and they exchange quips and jokes and innuendos and curses to each other all the time, but they went through some pretty traumatizing stuff at the end of Lies of Locke, and you talked about their different ways of coping and then the different ways that they moved on from that and supported or enabled each other depending on the scene. And it is like, yeah, these guys had to face some dark stuff. They had to get a little older, like they're taking on, in John's case, he took on the leader role to a bunch of orphan kids, so it's interesting to see that kind of come up. And I'll hit you with another psychology word, Dylan, and then I'll let you explain it. So what do you think about their relationship in a sense being codependent?
Ooh,
Because that
that's a buzzword.
thank you, yes, because was tested in their relationship as well, because it's like, can we only have fun and live life when we're planning super dangerous heists with super dangerous people. And then for Locke, it's like, can I let Jean have a life outside of the role
Yes.
he fills for me? Like he knows that he wants Jean to have a life, but he also is like not quite sure how that's gonna work, and puts themselves in these positions where, oh, we have to be at sea for a million years. Oops. It's like, so what would you have to say about the codependency of their dynamic?
Yeah, it definitely exists, and a key characteristic of codependency is something that comes up all the time in substance use treatment in particular. And you mentioned the idea of enabling, like we have
Yeah.
these very explicit moments of like Jean kind of, we get a confrontation at a certain point, but for a long time, Jean pretty much just lets Locke sit there and drink himself into a stupor
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. And that's a pretty interesting observation you have about like the tension that tends to come later in the book is basically Locke fighting against the fact that Jean is like forming a relationship and trying to be like a functioning
Building a
member
life
of a
with
larger
someone else. Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jean can do that. And Locke is like, I have nothing. Like, I have no one but you. And like,
And I have to like kind of be
so
the boss
it's,
too, which is an interesting
yeah,
part of Locke's character.
yeah, yeah. Locke has, it's, I think this is something that is very much in the background of Locke's character, but is ever present in the background of Locke's character is he has dealt with substantial like romantic relationship
Mm-hmm.
loss as well. And from time to time, Sabbatha will be mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's very difficult for Locke, who's still grieving, like that he doesn't have a romantic partner, and that like I won't say anything more because Sabbatha isn't featured in these first two books, and it's something I don't want to get too deep into, but
Mm.
I think it's very difficult for Locke watching Jean like find happiness, not just in the sense that it's like someone else who's helping provide this happiness that isn't Locke, but also that Locke lacks the like any sort of romantic partnership and pretty much views himself as incapable of like being with anyone except the person that he's lost. So I think that that part's a struggle for him too.
Mm.
And it's yeah, it's
It's
interesting because we do get to a point where Locke, before Esri dies,
mm.
Locke is like, "Oh, like we'll go out on the road, the three of us," like, and he's like
It's like,
gonna be the
no,
third
yeah,
wheel in the group. And Scott Lynch was like, actually, I don't want to write that." So Esri had to.
because you had to
Sorry,
go.
Esri.
Yeah, I knew she
Yeah.
was done for, man. I was like, the writing was on the wall with her character. I'm like, what story is this where like Jean is happily in a relationship with somebody that's not Locke, and yet they're still together? Like it just wasn't adding up. So I was like, oh no, poor Esri. And then I also recognized that that's exactly what happened to Locke in the first book. So you're like, okay, I see the parallels happening there. And yeah, I think Scott Lynch did a great job of putting these two characters, having them set out on their own, and he made it very clear, very purposeful, where he's like, these guys could have settled, whether it was taking over that orphan gang or
Sure.
pretending to be merchants, or even just gambling in the Sunspire. Like, there was a million and one times they could have retired wealthy people
Oh, they
under
have
the
a
radar,
preposterous amount of
a
money by the time we
preposterous
start
amount
this
of
book.
time. And that's the other small gripe I have with this book, was the actual heist itself. Like, the whole time Locke has this master plan and you're waiting for it to pay off, and then it was just like they were gonna steal paintings in the lobby, and then that was it. I was like, you could have just kept gambling. I don't know, but and then but we'll get into that. But the whole thing was like they made it a point many times that the two of them could have retired at any moment they wanted comfortably, and they keep bringing each other into these dangerous, high risk scenarios. And it's also balanced by the fact of this love of the game, craftsman thief kind of thing too. So it's just a really interesting balance of like min-maxing their character traits of like, minimizing their sense but maximizing their pride in their work, so it's just really interesting to see that dynamic kind of pay off in this story. But yeah, it's like these guys could have retired at any moment, they chose not to, and a lot of that is the dependency in their relationship, but also like if they were left on their own, there'd be no happiness. So it's kind of interesting in that.
I think they also just, this is what they were trained to do from the time that they were little children. And I think in Locke's case, there's like a nature and nurture interaction of like Locke from the start is painted as like this guy was just born to steal and lie and cheat, and it starts with the thief maker who's like, he steals too much is like the the issue with Locke. And I think there's just something with Locke that this is what he was born to do, and he ended up in the situation that most exacerbated those tendencies and like kind of controlled them too in a way that was able to channel it toward these more complex love of the game style things instead of just
even sneakier and stealthier if you just like played a longer game,
chill out a little
had
bit.
Another con. And so that's why he's doing it. He's not doing it to be chill, he's doing it to pull an even more elaborate con down the line. So it's he can act normal. He's like, oh, I'm a humble merchant living a normal life, only because he's pulling a con. He's like, I'm going to buy some furniture today, only because he's gonna like give it to some like crime lord who's gonna have it in his office so he can break it. It's just it's crazy.
I think it's all they know. Like it's just, what is the alternative? And they'll talk sometimes too, they're like, I think in this book they're probably nearing their late 20s. I think
sounds right.
They're not like
they make comments about how they're not young anymore, and they're getting old.
Yeah, but they're not old at all. They're still old
for
young,
thieves,
right?
I guess.
Like most thieves don't make it that long, as we saw by the end of the first book. But it's like, what are they going to do? They talk sometimes about like, oh, well, like retire or whatever. It's like, you're going to retire? It's like those athletes who retire when they're like 31.
This is the last and then they're like,
big
wait, score. Like, we pull this off. Yeah.
Like, I'm 31. This isn't like gonna be the end of doing things and then they go figure something else out to do. Usually it's like sport, even Tom Brady has to go be a Fox Sports commentator,
just talk about
or whatever.
Sports.
It's like, because it'd be otherwise he'd have to have like spent time with his family that he got divorced from. So it's it's hard. But I think that's kind of Locke and John too, right? That Tom Brady level commitment to their craft, and they really don't know anything else. And I think they kind of have to keep doing it because what's the alternative? It's an interesting thing. It's a very interesting for the characters.
Very interesting for the characters, and then you throw in a whole pirate subplot about halfway in, and things just kind of surprisingly take off a little bit story-wise for me. Like I was like, oh, this is interesting, because they are pretending to be mutinous Navy captains,
members of the Navy.
Yeah. And become turned pirate, and that fails almost immediately, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed quite a bit, because you have this guy who's supposed to be training them, and then he just passes out dead. You forget the cats in a bag in the beach.
Never forget the cats. That's why we had socks.
You got double and triple cross before you even set sail. So it's just funny that he was like, and he has the whole training montage and everything, and he's like, yeah, they're still going to fail almost immediately and spectacularly. They just get immediately raided by another pirate, our famous Drakasha.
Yeah, it's well, it goes a while, and they're almost starting to get away with it. But as soon as they're like the true captain goes down, they're just completely screwed.
Yeah,
And
that
I,
was a fun twist.
right, that's pretty funny. I Scott Lynch will surprise you sometimes, and
Mm,
the way it goes is completely different than what you're expecting. I think that's something he does really well is he can make Locke, especially, seem very competent at the things that he is capable of, which
mm,
is like coming up with these ruses and outsmarting people and blah blah blah. But I don't think I've ever really heard the like Mary Sue criticism slung at Locke Lamora, and it's pretty interesting for a character who's the main like was it conceit? Is that a word? Like the main conceit is that he's like smarter than everyone around him, so much so that he like dances circles around them when he's coming up with these cons, and
yeah,
that's because like he doesn't get considered Mary Sue because he just fails
yeah,
over,
all the
like
time.
legitimately fails due to incompetence over and over again at things that are outside of his like his realm of what he's good at. Like it's not like, oh, the captain's dead. Well, at least I had my lessons, and in that short amount of time, I've been able to become a master captain myself. It's just like, oh no, John, like we're screwed, and I forgot the cats. Like, and he just fails, and he even fails in the
No, Polly.
not only is he unable to pull off his stunt at the end of breaking into this unbreakable safe, he has his plan of, oh, actually I was going to steal the paintings, and then the paintings are fake. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he Locke fails over and over again, but we still buy him as, oh, he's really competent at his like his thing he
His
does because
yeah.
we've seen it.
And he was
So it's
even
like
like making everyone on the crew think there were cats around and they were just
that he
hiding
can
for,
do for a
and,
while.
and he was doing that for a long time. And these guys are
It's
like,
only so
I'm like
long.
90% sure there's no cats on this boat, but I'll listen to you for now. It's like,
Yeah.
how does he do that? You know, there were moments though, I'll say, in this book where Locke is just going off explaining a ton of stuff to whether it's the Archon or Drakasha or you know the top guy in the Sinspire. And he's just like going.
Requin.
I'm like, who would let this guy talk for as long as he's talking? Like the minute he starts weaving you a tale, you should immediately not listen to him and not do anything he's implying like at all. He is such a like what is that?
He's
Very
silver tongued. He's
silver tongued, but he's also like he does it like too much. It's like, okay, bro, I don't know what you're up to, but you're up to something. I'm out. You know?
but that's his skill is even when other people like know it's happening, he's saying the right things
Mm-hmm.
that indicate like, hey, you don't have to like trust me. Here are the reasons why like it's good for you anyway, or
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
what I'm doing. Like he I don't know. I find it usually believable because it's not that the characters are like, wowee, like this guy, I believe every word he's saying. It's like he convinces them that, oh, yeah, like I'm selfish. What I really want is to betray my partner because he's done like bad things to me. So actually, you and I, our motives align. It's not that I'm some selfless guy. It's like he convinces them of these things that like part of what he's agreeing to is like, no, I'm not like trustworthy. It's just that in this instance, it's better if I'm still around doing my thing just because how it aligns up for you. And I
Mm.
think, right, I always get the sense that these kind of characters, especially the ones in power, are like, they really want to make him stop talking. And then he just says like that one thing that they're like, but maybe I
Yeah.
can use this guy.
It's been a while since I read the book, but I do remember those scenes where he's has an audience with the head of the Sinspire and just putting it
Right.
all out there, convincing him that he will betray Jean, and
Yeah.
he's being set up by the Archon. He's doing whatever, and you're like, okay, like I'm following you so far. And then he does juggle it with, Scott Lynch does juggle it with, what the Archon wants, and the rivalry with the Sinspire, all of these different cons running at once. You see Locke kind of using them as momentum to
Mhm.
continue conning the other person. It's a pretty complex web of deception going on that I was just very impressed by Scott Lynch to like hold all of that together for as long as he did. I felt like the ultimate delivery of they were stealing artwork and they were the wrong paintings was undercut that all that work a little bit. Like you feel like all this work is building up to some grand thing to go into a vault, and so that I don't know your thoughts on all that, but just Lynch juggling all those layers of deception I thought was really well done in this.
I think Lynch has a specialty for that particular thing. It's the
Yes.
same thing that is in Lies of Locke, which is there are two far more powerful figures
Hmm.
who both kind of have Locke like behind the eight ball or like under their thumb in some way. Like it was Kappa Barsavi and the Gray King
Barsabi. I'm just
in
remembering
The
Michael
Lies of
Page.
Locke, and then in this one it's Requin and the Archon,
Yes.
and they both kind of have Locke stuck under their thumb in one way or another, and somehow Locke is able to maneuver in that like powerless place,
Yeah.
whereas he's like playing both of them, even though both of them have all the power over him.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting
Yeah.
thing, and I've noticed it was something that really appealed to me about the Lies of Locke was that
Hmm.
dynamic, and then I kind of realized reading this one, I was like, oh, he's like Scott Lynch does this thing with the
Right,
like
because he knows
this
that
is a
they're kind
thing.
of rivals,
Yeah.
and you can Locke is calculating his lies where he's like, there's
Yeah.
enough that he will know and believe, and then here I go to take the plunge to sell the lie, and he kind of is doing that in his internal monologue in that fun narration style that Lynch has, and yeah, it was in this book in particular, things got pretty like there's a lot of hype being built up and things got pretty convoluted. He's like buying chairs here, he's buying maps there, he's going down the chute of a tavern, he's like going all over the place, he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's all for this greater game. Meanwhile, he keeps going to these meetings with his superiors, and they're like, "We're gonna, kill you any day now." And he's like, yes, but, you're gonna want to do these
Yeah.
things. Meanwhile, they've got some magic cult after him that wants to kill him. They've got poison
The
flowing through
bonds
their
magi,
veins and
yeah.
no antidote. So it's a lot of suspense and cliffhangers and unknowns dangling throughout the majority of this.
Yeah, and many of them still remain at the
Yes.
end of this book. I
Oh
think,
yes.
yeah, it's interesting how Scott Lynch always puts his characters at a huge disadvantage. It always feels like every single odd is stacked against them. And at least to this point, they've never really triumphantly overcome all of them by the end of a book. It's
No.
like at the very best, we have here that, well, only one of them is still poisoned with no way to find an antidote.
Yeah.
And they still have this Bonds Magi group after them that can basically kill them anytime they want, but they don't
Yes,
do
the
it
bonds.
yet because they want them to suffer as much as possible. We'll see you with the next book. And at least
Yes.
there is a next book in this
Yes.
stage. The
Yes.
problem then becomes there isn't after that. But I'll say
And
there's
it's
a,
been like
yeah,
10 years. So.
yeah. It's funny though, where as opposed to the Rothfuss situation, where it's like, I think there's a just general sense with that the third book of the King Killer Chronicles, like, oh, who freaking knows? Like,
Yeah.
don't even like think about it because who knows? with the Scott Lynch series, for some reason, there's like some sort of little like murmurs like
There's a murmur
once a
like it's almost a
year.
year ago
Yeah,
now. It's like
yeah.
Scott
It's
Lynch
like
is
once a
writing
year.
again.
It's like, oh yeah, like it's any day now. It's
Well,
like,
Office is
but
like very public, streamed for a long time, and like would constantly be stuff like, "Oh, maybe I'll release a chapter." Just kidding. And you're like, okay. But Lynch was always just like, nah, I'm in a not great place. Like, not
yeah.
happening. And so I guess people are, um, they're not like, like expecting anytime soon, you know? So,
There's no real like Scott Lynch like backlash or hate
no.
that like there's a general like the sense of people being like, yeah, it's a bummer. Like, who knows when that next book is coming out? Like, I hope the guy's doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of the vibe.
And
Where the
George was
vibe
like
with
wishing he
Kingkiller
was in
is
that
like, I know,
situation. George is like,
yes,
God damn, I can't even tweet without being bombarded by a
yeah.
million people for like 10 years. So, yeah.
George has exceeded a net worth where people will let you have like any like positive interactions online if you're not giving them what you
Yeah.
want. It's just like
Yeah.
everyone jumps right to like that
He's
he's
like,
too
I bought a
rich and the
railroad and revived the
yeah.
dire wolf. And they're just like, we don't care. Where's Winds of Winter? So, yeah, no, I feel like Scott Lynch does get a pass for that, but he leaves us like for as many like cliffhangers and like deliveries he had in this book, he does leave us with one genuine interesting cliffhanger that I don't know where it's gonna go. The Bonds Magi is one, but it's so like that's a problem for the future that you can like
Hmm.
compartmentalize it, like the White Walkers, kind of, where you're like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
White Walkers, but there's so much other stuff happening in the foreground here. But this poison situation where
Hmm.
they literally like ride off into the sunset, one got the antidote, one didn't. He starts to not feel good. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like literally like I know like Locke's not gonna die. That would be pretty insane. So like what happens? You know, I have no idea. And they don't present
Crazier
any
things
glimmer
have
of hope
happened.
at all.
Mhm.
What's
Yeah,
happened?
I crazier things have happened,
They have.
Charles. I mean, there's yeah, I won't say where any of it is heading in book 3, but that is a really interesting cliffhanger, and I think that's a Scott Lynch move is just like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna tie all this up. Like my characters are still screwed. But speaking of characters getting screwed, I think we should talk a little about the Esri
Mm.
death and things like that. I guess like
Oh
the well,
yeah.
let's
Where she
let's
like
not
dives on the
screw.
bomb.
Yeah, and I guess like the Esri relationship with Jean and that she's a pretty big part of this book. So
Yes, we
I'm
kind of
kind
only
of
talked
curious to
about
get
her
your
as it affects Locke and Sean's relationship.
yeah, which maybe speaks a little bit to her character, but she is her, she's her own character, and I'm curious, positive or negative,
Yeah.
your thoughts on the relationship. How did Scott Lynch do with creating this love interest? What do we think of him? Just like I'm not gonna say unceremoniously killing her off because it was ceremoniously, I feel like so, but
Oh, yeah. She
ceremoniously
was
killing
like,
her
everyone
off.
step
Yeah,
back. I'm gonna
yeah,
go grab the
I'm a
bomb.
hero.
Yeah, and she's like, sorry, Jean, put all that life planning stuff on hold because I'm gonna go kill myself now. And you're like, ooh, boy,
Basically,
yikes. And yeah, it was very dramatic, that whole thing. And then because it was started with an old lady, right, on the ship who was just like calling the bluff that it wasn't really a bomb or something. Like, isn't that what happened?
basically,
She was just
yes.
like, "You don't have a
That's
bomb," and like killed the guy. And it was like, "Oh crap, he did have a bomb."
well, it was the um that she had a role.
She
You
did.
can
She
tell it's
had a
been
role.
this is us months after we've read the
Yeah,
book, to be fair, but the character like had a role on the ship. I'm trying to remember
because it
exactly. She
because
had like a
the whole
spider and
situation was
like
like
it was
somewhat senseless, and also Esri volunteered herself when she didn't have to. So it was like that weird combination of like
well, she did. Well, okay.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
forget the woman.
yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just say the situation was this guy was betraying the Zamira.
Yes.
Zamira Drakasha, right? Is
Mm.
the captain's name. This guy was betraying her because of like something with that other captain who like
Because he didn't want to
he
go to war
convinced
with
him
the Archon. Yeah.
this was the move,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And then when he's like in the middle of the betrayal, she like what does she do that ends up causing him to like drop the bomb or
Well,
whatever?
she ends up
It's
getting the
definitely her
one up
fault.
on him, right? And just when he was about to be defeated, he pulls out this thing which is a
Yes,
puts creates a fire that you cannot put out once it
right.
starts. And so he was like, "You somehow bested me against all the odds in this naval battle, but if you don't surrender right now, I'm going to
But
light this ship on
it's the
fire."
traitor. It's not
Yeah.
the captain. It's a traitor
Oh, right,
who's
right,
doing
because
that.
that's right,
Yes,
exactly. So it was a traitor on the ship because
yes.
they didn't like that Drakasha was, picking this fight with the Archon, and so and he's like, I'll drop it. I'm crazy. I'll do it. I'm going over to the other ship right now, and then just drops it,
It's
So it's like, oh crap.
but
Um,
there's something with that woman that
well,
she does
she
something to
doesn't
cause
believe
it to
him.
happen.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
doesn't
but then
believe
she
him.
like
She like throws something at him
yeah,
or
something like
something.
that.
Yeah, yeah, she attacks him basically because
Yeah,
everyone
something
else
like
is
that.
not making a move, right? Because it's a highly flammable, destructive
All
weapon,
right.
and so no one is moving. And then the old lady's like, "I don't got time for this. Like you're lying," and then like attacks him,
It's
throws something
terrible.
at him or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's definitely, I remember her being like, and then like Ezra's dead, and she's like, I didn't know. I didn't know
Yes,
he really
yes,
had a
yeah.
bomb. I was like, what? But
Strap it to
yeah.
her back and send her into the ocean, but they needed someone
But
to
it was like
grab it
a
while on
split
fire.
second. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a let's like
No,
it doesn't have to be you, Ezri. Maybe we should have someone less
no.
important. It's
And
just like
Esri was
the
talking
person who
about this whole
acts
time
in the
how
moment.
she's run her whole life and avoided the
Yeah.
conflict and ran from her family, sailing the seas. So this was kind of her full circle moment, I guess, to like take a challenge head on and brace
Hmm.
it. And I mean, I'm
Yeah, she
assuming
got an
that
arc.
her therapist is probably like, not like that, what are you doing? I
Right.
meant by like having a relationship with Jean, not by
Right.
killing yourself,
Like
but you
right,
know.
like show the courage to be vulnerable, not
Yeah,
like light yourself on fire to
but
save
someone had
everyone.
to do
But
it or they were all
someone
gonna
had to
die.
do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So
If she didn't do it,
she was the
everyone
only one
dies.
who calculated all the odds and realized what was happening, and she knew she was the only one that could act fast enough to prevent
Hmm.
this thing. And she knew Jean could do it too, but she didn't let him. Like she
She like
knocked him
hit
out or
him.
something.
She
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
And
then
there's something with Locke too. I don't know if Locke like, but she
Locke
hit
was
Jean.
like, "Oh no!" But took a
Right.
step
Yeah.
back and put his hands
No,
up.
like
This is crazy. Yeah.
right.
So
Oh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna help. I'm just not fast
it's like,
enough.
oh wait, it's like you fake reach for the check at the end of a dinner, like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like you wait
Right.
until they
It's
have it in
already
their
in
hand to be
the
like, oh wait, no, I was gonna
exactly.
grab it. It's exactly probably what he was gonna do, but he was gonna do
Although
that.
I will say Locke is to be fair with Locke, he does let Jean,
Yeah, yeah. I
get
mean,
the.
that's not
Oh,
really
I
what
mean Locke,
happened in the book.
yeah.
It's just kind of funny to think of him
It
doing
does
that
feel that
because
way.
it's
There's
ridiculous. He's like, this is
yeah.
convenient for me. And then to even then go and sacrifice himself, even though you could argue that, oh, now Jean has nothing to live for, that which was the opposite scenario beginning of the book with Locke. So for Esri though, I think the thing that now being many months separated from the story, I look back on her and think of her as, oh, the character that needed to exist and die so that we could mirror the moment that Locke had in book one, so that they could be on this equal playing field of having helped each other through difficult times. You know, that's how I look back on her, kind of unfairly, I guess you could say. But I was like, I knew in the moment that she had to go because she just didn't fit in the equation. And it's kind of unfortunate that it's like.
At what point did you know Ezri was going to die?
When you're nearing the end,
when she was holding the the flame that could not go out.
Goes to Locke and they have a moment of like, we're talking about getting our own ship, and then Locke's like, so the three of us are gonna be sailors now? And he's like, no, the two of us. And I was like, there's no way Locke will stop him, but there's no way that's what book 3 is all about. Wait,
I thought they were planning on like the three of them running, like going together.
I mean, maybe they did, but I was suspicious. I was like, "There's no way."
It sounds.
It's Locke and Jean. It's not Locke, Jean, and Ezri is also there. You know, like it. And then I was like, "Well, I think about it. I think of like, wouldn't it be something if Jean suffered this huge loss romantically now, and Locke has to be the one, the pieces kind of." And so I was like, oh, yeah, so she's totally going to die. Like, there's no question about it. And so, you know, he's thrown us curveballs before, for sure. So I wouldn't have put it past him to make that not the case. But if I was, you know, Vegas odds, I was like, she's a goner. Because it just made sense. And so she kind of just fit this short-term role in the Locke and Jean relationship.
That's all anyone really does at the end of the day is play a short-term role in the Locke and Jean relationship. What we've learned is do not play a central role in a relationship dynamic that involves Locke and Jean, because Scott Lynch will kill
any sort of that arrangement with Locke and Jean. You'll find yourself killed.
Yes. Don't be intimately involved with them in any sort of way. Like, don't be a found family with them. Don't be a love interest. Like, just because Scott Lynch will murder you, and he's already did that to all the gentlemen bastards in book 1, and then to poor Ezri in book 2. Anyone who stands between our codependent, our codependent co-protagonists will die.
Yes, there's no greater bond than those two right there. So yes. I agree. They are definitely the two that are driving the story, and anything that gets in the way gotta go at some point, because it all balances back out until it doesn't at the end of this book with the poison switcheroo, you know. So we'll see how that goes. I honestly have no idea where they're gonna go with the poison, because they make it so that they hit it over and over again. That antidote cannot be replicated. Like, I'm the leading antidote guy, and like, it doesn't exist. And I think maybe I'm dead or something now. So there's just no way you're getting the antidote. And so we'll see. We'll see.
We shall see.
What do you think of that? Of how we haven't really gone into too much detail on Locke making the conscious choice to kind of betray Jean's trust a little bit to give him the antidote.
I think that's just, wasn't Jean also planning to, I think the way it's revealed, now that I'm remembering, and please give us the generosity of knowing we read this several months ago, that I'm pretty sure Jean basically, like, for all intents and purposes, like, puts Locke in headlock, starts giving him a noogie, and tells him, you're going to take the antidote. And like, he's basically threatening Locke with like violence of like, I'm going to force you to take the antidote now. And while that's happening, Locke is like, it's too late. I already had you drink it in that wine. And right. I think that's the moment. Are you remembering it that way too, Charles?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember if like in the wine, like if he switched it and then switched it again or something like that.
But I don't think it was.
They were competing with each other to force each other to take it.
I think Locke basically, like, they were drinking wine and somehow Locke slipped it in there, and Jean, like, they had vials that are supposed to be the antidote.
Mm.
And then Jean was like, I'm going to force you to drink it because I'm stronger than you. And then Locke was like, well, I already made you drink it because I'm smarter than you. Obviously, that's the subtext, not the actual text, but I'm pretty sure
Right.
that's how it happened. And then Jean was like, how could you do that? Like, that's such a betrayal of me. And then Locke was like, well, like, you were just about to like force me to take it because you're big. Like, it's not exactly, something that you weren't going to do too. And I just think that the like quote unquote betrayal of it all isn't really there for me because I just think the underlying thing, especially with these thieves, is not are you telling the truth or not? It's are you looking out for like your brother? Are
Yeah.
you looking out for the person that you care the most about? And that's the real code more than like, oh, I gave you my word. Oh, I said we were going to blah, blah, blah. It's just like, are you doing right by your like family in this case? And Locke was doing right by Jean, and Jean was trying to do right by Locke, and Locke beat him to it. And
Yeah.
I don't see it really as a betrayal, and I think like neither really does Jean. Like he's
Maybe he
mad
pretend.
because
What did he pretend that there were 2 doses? Did he lie about that?
did he lie that there were two doses? I don't think
I
so.
don't think so either.
I
I don't
don't
know
think
why.
so. I'm pretty sure they were like, how are we gonna sort this out? And they were kind of like
Yeah, because I
talking about
remember
it.
Locke
And then
told John he's the better man, and that he had a life to live
yeah,
for, and like I do remember
they
that.
had a whole conversation,
Yeah.
and it I think ended in Jean just being like, "Well, I'm gonna make you take it," and Locke being like, "I already made you take it." Um, so I think, yeah, I don't think it's really betrayal. I don't think even either. I don't think that Jean sees it that way. I think he's just mad because,
He was
especially in
pretty
the state
furious.
that he, yeah, like he's grieving and he thinks he has nothing left to live for. And Locke is like, well, you're like a decent person, and I'm kind
It's
of
funny how
like a
that
crappy
tests
person.
their friendship.
Like,
Like it's almost like friendship over because you
right.
gave me the antidote. But they ended up riding off into the sunset together. Ultimately, um, you got your friendship, your sacrifice, the gray morality behind the whole thing. It's all right there at the end, and that really nice end moment between Locke and Jean.
Yes. You know, much like our when we used to play Sea of Thieves with our other
Mm.
lifelong friend Derek, uh, on the high seas, it's the friendship, which is what we
Yes.
named our boat, the
Before it
friendship
got
that
immediately
matters most.
raided, kind
Yeah,
of just like Locke and Sean in their story. It's
probably
like,
by
oh,
like a
competent
bunch of
pirates.
12-year-olds. Yeah,
Exactly.
just every time we played that game, we would just get immediately like raided and our like ship set on fire by people who were likely like 12-year-olds.
I tried to be like,
So
we're 30. Please don't sink our ships.
we're in our
We're in our
30s.
30s. We have jobs.
Please have mercy.
They never showed mercy, never one time.
No,
Uh,
no.
yeah, um, well, what's that, Polly? About time to wrap it up. What do you say, Dylan? Are we about in that time where we should be playing that sweet Dutch music? Any parting words for those people who've made it to the end of our Red Seas Under Red Skies discussion?
My parting words
Oh boy,
in one moment.
oh boy, it's coming, Polly.
You've always got to
Oh,
have cats on board. Go to the
very lucky.
YouTube to see my cat Socks. I just picked him up. Socks, what do you say? Can you speak? No,
How about you, Polly?
no,
No.
nothing.
Well, guys, I think that's it, right? Nothing left to do but play some sweet, sweet outro music, eh?
Let's get that sweet, sweet outro music pumping. Right? Yeah. Sorry, Socks is gonna dance.
All right, let's get that sweet, sweet outro music pumping. Here we go.
Dance Socks.
And thank you, everyone, one and all, for listening to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. If you like what you heard today, if you want to support the show, go ahead and give us a like, a subscribe, a download, a follow on social media, anywhere you find us, however you found us, anything you do to engage would be greatly appreciated, matey. Now, matey, first mate Dylan, if they like what they heard today and they want to do more than engage with us over on the socials, what can they do?
Toss 5 stars to our podcast, which you can do on Spotify. You can also do it on Apple. You should really subscribe to us on YouTube. That's a really important thing to us these days. You can also follow us on our many social media platforms. I did join Blue Sky. I did it, Charles.
Hear that, Paulie? Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Blue Sky. Blue Sky.
There's some joke I could have thought of here with red seas under red skies, like we've got blue sky, but I didn't think of it ahead of time, so I'll let other folks fill that in. But you can find us at the FDF Podcast on Blue Sky. You can find us at the FDF Podcast on Instagram and TikTok as well. And you know what? I'm done with X. I'm done with it, Charles.
Yeah. Not off the plank with you. Walk the plank, X. Elon Musk, you walk the plank.
With Elon Musk is walking the plank. So, yarg. But, okay, but, sorry. Please like our YouTube stuff and, just watching and listening is more than enough.
You're just watching and listening be more than enough.
You scallywags.
You scallywags. Have a great day. Enjoy the seas. And, as always, folks, go forth and conquer, friends.